Good evening, folks. Thanks for coming on. And all I see right now is Pine Island Research, which is um, Jeff Harding. And I haven't seen you for a long time. Thanks for dropping by. And we have Dave Wilbanks from Bigfoot and More and Pat Turner from Squatch Talk. And of course, it's your host, Cornell. So it's my birthday today. So one of my birthday presents was I was allowed to do a Bigfoot podcast. So here I am.
Nice.
I might even be back again on Monday, so God knows. But we've been trying to come up with a game plan for the show tonight, and right now we're getting back into the swing of things. So we again are going to play it by ear like we did the last time we talked about like different cryptids around the country and our thoughts on them. We got through about 5 of them because each cryptid has its own show, right? But so we covered a little bit of that ground. So what have you guys been up to? I don't know who wants to go first.
Go ahead, Pat.
I've been up to a lot, not Bigfoot related, and when I kind of get an itch for the Bigfoot thing, I'll chime in, and I feel like I'm kind of on a PR campaign these days when it comes to Bigfoot, which is why I'm glad to be here because it's a part of my PR campaign.
Right.
But yeah, other than that, like I've been up to quite a lot that I will not talk about here tonight.
Well, how's the drone war going?
The drone war. There's no drone war. It's going to play out the way it's going to play out. Like that's all I can say. Like I have a plan. I have a mission. I can implement that. I can pull that trigger. It's up to the Bigfoot world if they want that or not. It's not my responsibility to bring that to the table. It's the Bigfoot world's responsibility to like implement it. That's it. That's how I feel about it.
Oh, I know what you mean.
Yeah, it costs money. Like I'm not gonna pay for it. I'm not gonna pay for it. I'm not gonna pay for I'm not gonna pay for the hotel rooms. I'm not gonna pay for the fly time. Like that's not coming out of Pat Turner's pocket. But I can implement it. I can pull that trigger if somebody wants to put their money where their mouth is, literally.
Yeah, you're saying that if you don't spend 10,000, thanks, David. You're saying if you're not ready to spend $10,000 on a drone, don't even bother. For this subject, anyway.
No, I got the drones. I have the pilots. They're ready to go. I can pull that trigger anytime I want. But I got to pay for those guys to travel and stay in hotel rooms and fly. Okay, that costs money. I can't sweat equity them into the Bigfoot world. So somebody's got to pay for that. Somebody's got to pay for their hotel room. Somebody's got to pay for their flight time. Again, Bigfoot world, put your money where your mouth is. Yeah, absolutely.
GoFundMe.
Bigfoot world, put your money where your mouth. No, they can go fund it. Like I'm not gonna go fund it. They go fund it. Where's Bigfoot? Where's Bigfoot? Where are they?
Well, they're in Oklahoma.
Well, okay. Let's go to Oklahoma and look.
So I see the problem.
Yeah, I'm not going to fund it. I'm not going to fund that.
Well, what you could do is join an expedition, and you'd be the drone guy.
I'm not going to do an expedition. Tell me where they are. I'm not going to go boots on the ground in fucking Oklahoma and look for them.
Or like around your area.
Somebody tell me where they are. Give me I don't know, 20 square mile area where they might be. I could search that in a night or two.
Yeah.
Yeah. So pretty easy. Where boots on the ground would be a month or two.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. So a night or two versus a month or two. Do you want answers or not? You telling me they're there, put your money where your mouth is. I can bring the technology to blow this wide open. No problem. A Matrice 30T, no problem. We got it, man. They can't avoid that. If we find them, it's over. Game over. So it comes down to Bigfoot saying, "Oh, they're here," and then I show up and they're not actually there. Which is the case because they shouldn't be there. They shouldn't be anywhere a Bigfooter thinks they are.
Right.
That's my deal with this whole thing. David, I don't know. What do you think about all that, David?
I see where you're coming from, but what you're saying, tell me where they are. That's assuming that they stay in one place and don't stay moving around. And I think the other night I was doing a podcast and I was disagreeing with my friend about the possible population of these things. And he thinks there's a whole lot of them. I think there's very
population.
Few. Yeah, I think there's very few. And I don't think they stay in one place constantly because something of that size in a breeding population, if they stayed in one place, there would be loads of evidence there. And then somebody like you, Pat, could come in with your drone, fly over it and blow it out of the water. I think they absolutely, and this is just my thoughts on it. I think they kind of, I don't know, migrate's not the right word to use because that insinuates they go north to south. They're nomadic, maybe in a general area, something like that. I mean, who knows? We're throwing ideas around.
I mean, if they're in the Kaimichis, there's no way out. They're only in the Kaimichis. They can never get out of that.
But it's huge, though.
Yeah. Why couldn't they?
There's no path to what? What other?
To another mountain range. To another.
No, there's no other mountain range.
Well, it goes all the way up to the.
There's only the flat plains to the north, and the flatness to the east. The flatness to the west.
How big of an area are you talking about?
Huh?
How big of an area are you talking about? There's hundreds of thousands of acres.
So what? That's a tiny area, bro.
They don't have to stop at this creek. I mean, they can cross that and go wherever they
want.
What
I'm saying is the entire Kaimichi range is what it is. There's no way out of that. They can't get to the Appalachians. They can't get to the Pacific Northwest. They can't get to Florida. They can't get to upstate New York. So they are trapped there in that one area. And I don't care how big that area is.
I'd have to respectfully disagree there.
Okay, so what's their path out and to where?
Well, I mean, I can see now you go too far west. Yeah, you got to cross a lot of plains, desert, and stuff like that. They're not going to go to California from there, in my opinion.
What's the path east?
Okay, let me get to this now.
Yeah.
The Kiamishi Mountains are just a sub-range of the Ouachita Mountains, which is massive, goes deeper into, there's more of that in Arkansas there is Oklahoma. So we're talking about immense amount of wooded areas. Sure. You go just south of the Ouachitas and you gradually go down into the swamplands of far southeast Oklahoma into Louisiana, the big thicket area of Texas. I mean, the woodlands and stuff is massive. Very massive. So they're not, and where I live, I'm about probably 80 miles as the crow flies from the foothills of the Kiamishis. But even that, they gradually get smaller and smaller hills to where I'm at. We got Bigfoot sightings around here on the river bottoms and stuff. So no, there's no getting trapped there. There's
I mean, okay, so you made the range a little bit larger. They're still trapped there. They can never connect to the Appalachians. They can never connect to the Pacific Northwest. So they are still in a very niche place. No, they're still in a niche place.
Okay,
even if you
here's what
even given all that, they're still in a niche in the middle of North America, man. That they can't go. Yeah. They cannot go east or west.
Yeah,
they
Batman wants visuals.
Can never connect to Florida.
Yeah, I
can
think
never connect to the Appalachians.
Okay. That's a big statement.
Well, it's a true statement. It's not. It's a big statement.
Why would they have to get to a certain area and say, "Oh, can't go any further this way"? I could see if it's city limits.
Because then we're defining where they could actually be in that part of the country. It's a definition of where they could only be.
Let me say this too. When people tend to generically call everything in the Ouachita Mountains the Comanches down here, and I've been guilty of that too. The Comanche Mountains themselves is a sub-range of the much larger Ouachita mountains. Like Talamina Drive that you drive through, that's a long mountain range through. That's the Comanche Mountains. There's a lot of places for something to hide. Now, do I think there's thousands of them roaming around? No, I don't believe there's thousands of them roaming around Southeast.
I get that there's room for them to be there. My only point is that they can never get out of there. So they're only ever there together. They can never leave because there's nothing but people to the north, south, east, and west, or ocean, right? Or wide open desert, like Mexico border, right? So
okay,
yeah. But I think just like we have. Sorry, go ahead, Cornell. I'm sorry.
No, what I'm going to say is what Pat would ultimately need then is these Bigfooters that say that they have habituation and they have them on their property. That's your ideal situation. So they have to put their money where their mouth is.
Oh yeah, that's
a subject.
That's just not a thing at all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the way. That's your best bet.
There is no property habituation. That's not a thing anywhere.
The only thing I can go off of on the habituation thing, even so-called habituation, I don't think lasts a long period of time.
Yeah.
Like I've investigated one deal where these things are reportedly coming up, watching kids and stuff. I went there, I found footprints of 3 different sizes of creature there, but they didn't stay for a long time. And they might have just been walking onto that property on occasion and then leaving, because I couldn't find on there where anything was like just really bedding down or anything. But again, that goes back again. If something of that size was staying in one concentrated area for a long time, we'd find evidence of them just
tons.
That's
of biological evidence.
That's why
it's not a thing.
Goes back to population. Like I said, I disagree with my friend the other night. He believes there are thousands of them roaming around Oklahoma. I think there are very few.
Thousands. Yeah. So,
and I think I remember you making a comment that if there were that many, we'd be finding them dead, hit by cars on the highway and stuff,
or shot in the face. Yeah.
Something like that.
Yeah. Both those things, absolutely.
I mean,
so
crazy, huh?
Yeah, I can't read that.
What was that craziness over in Tennessee? That Janet supposedly had the one named Fox that would even make cell phone calls to Igor Borshchev and stuff like that.
Oh God, yeah, just BS. Like so not even more.
So this family supposedly lived with them around their house for decades, and not one picture, not one anything. And they were even coming out getting sugar cubes.
Dismissive.
From them. It's like, come on.
Dismissive. That's immediate dismissal.
Right.
And Janice Carter, same thing. Immediate dismissal. Like that has been proven to be a mental problem. Yeah. The point is, like, what do you think about population? Like in North America, what's the population of Bigfoot?
I have no idea.
Well,
I just don't think there's
ballpark
hundreds of thousands of them. Pat, I don't even know how to do that. I don't even know how to do that.
hundreds of thousands.
I
There's
didn't say
hundreds
that.
of thousands of black bear. Like
No, he's saying there's not 100
Pat,
thousands.
listen, I said I do not believe there's like
Okay.
hundreds of thousands of them. Am I breaking up here? Okay.
No. I'm having trouble hearing you.
Because I'm with you on that. If there were that many of them, you would have to have Bigfoot crossing signs on the roads like you do deer crossing.
Yeah, exactly.
You know,
Right.
My view, I'll be clear about this. My view is there's very few of them. I do believe they exist, but they're very few. And once in a while, they get careless and get sighted by somebody.
Yeah.
And again, I don't, there's a ton of sightings reported. Just because something reported doesn't mean it actually happened. That's what you got to make that distinguishment.
So Meldrum is of the thinking of that there's about 3,000 in North America. In the entirety of North America, Florida to Alaska, from Washington State to upstate New York. 3,000.
I would be closer to agreeing with him more than I would the other. Because really, as far as the whole of North America, 3,000 is not a very many.
Yeah.
Especially when you sprinkle it in to that like great distance, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So that makes a little more sense from a biological standpoint than
right. So when you calculate that, there is absolutely zero fucking chance that any Bigfooter could ever plop down within an eighth of a mile of a Bigfoot. Ever. Impossible. Virtually impossible.
Pat, your mic screwed up there. You locked up a minute. I didn't hear that. You said there's no possible way any Bigfooter.
No, yeah. I said there's a virtual zero chance that any Bigfooter could ever plop down within an eighth of a mile of a Bigfoot. Ever. It's impossible.
Well, there's always the luck of the draw. I mean, just
there's not.
No, wait a minute. Somebody driving down the road and one crosses in front of them.
Yeah, you're talking about tens of millions of people now, not fucking 200 Bigfooters.
Right. But I mean, I believe the luck can happen.
No. So if I take 200 people and I pick them to win the lottery, like the Powerball, right? 200 people, and I pick those specific 200 people to win the Powerball, they'll never win it. It's impossible. It's a virtual zero chance that they would ever fucking win it.
Unlikely, but
virtual zero chance. 320 million to 1. So you take 200 people and you apply it to 320 a month, to 1. How they would spend their whole life playing the lottery every week and never win.
Cornell, you remember on Dumb and Dumber when the guy asked the lady out and she said there's a 1 in a million chance, and he goes, "You're saying there's a chance."
Yeah. But there's not a chance. The math doesn't lie.
Okay, the math is, but it's not impossible that a Bigfooter can go out.
It's virtually impossible.
I said it's not impossible.
Yeah.
Do you take the Patterson film? Do you believe that was a real thing?
I do not think what I see in that video is a guy in a suit.
Okay.
And so that is
that preparation.
Preparation met opportunity in that moment.
Okay.
Yep.
Then that was just one of those chances you said was virtually impossible. Man, it's fun having somebody to disagree with on the show.
Yeah, an anomaly. one anomaly in 60 years. Is that lottery luck you're talking about?
It is, but it can happen.
Or we could be
unlikely,
aggressive.
Absolutely. Very unlikely. Do what?
Or we could be like aggressive, about things. We could be proactive about things. That's what Roger did. Roger went out there being proactive. He was looking for evidence, and he was ready at the steed. He was an experienced horseman. He had practiced, pulling the camera out of his draw, out of the saddle. Like he had experience, and it was preparation met opportunity. And so if that was real, they came around that corner and boom, preparation met opportunity. And it went down the way it did. So I grant that as an anomaly.
It's
an
like, and again,
anomaly.
This ties in with what we were discussing as far as populations earlier. They're just simply, for a biological entity, which I know Cornell, I'm not sure Jeff, I don't know Jeff as well, but I think me and you and Cornell, we believe this is a biological entity.
Dude, Jeff
portal jumping.
Jeff is a portal guy. He's 100% portal. Planet Hairtron, 100%. He knows they come from Planet Hairtron. Hey, Jeff, welcome to the show.
So yes, this is Jeff Harding from Pine Island Research. How's it going, Jeff? I think it's your turn. I can't hear you.
I'll warn you, Pat's feeling very contrary tonight.
That's why I brought you on.
You're muted, Jeff. You're muted. You're muted.
We need it back up.
Yeah. And I was just kidding about Jeff, guys. So everybody knows. Like,
well, I figured that.
Yeah, I was talking a little crap. Like Jeff's my buddy. So I kind of felt it like to set him up in a very unfair way.
But Pat, I'll tell you this, I don't look at any time I go out looking for evidences of these things as a waste of time, because I enjoy getting out there.
Yeah, and see, that's the thing. It's all about enjoyment, right? Yeah, entertainment.
If by chance
it feels good to be out there.
Me when I was catching a fish or something like that, I would look at it like I did win the lottery.
You know what? I mean, you should, like David, you should just enjoy the woods for what they are. Forget Bigfoot.
Here's what Bigfoot
just is. Enjoy the woods, man.
Bigfoot to me is a fun outdoor mystery.
Yeah. But it's never around you. And it
is.
No.
I think it probably
is. What's the population? Like, how often do you get to be around a Bigfoot?
What is the population?
Yeah, so if they were okay, if a Bigfoot was half a mile away from you, they might as well be on another planet. The two of you would never even know you were there together.
Unless they are curious enough to.
No, not curiosity. They wouldn't know you were there. They wouldn't have a sense of presence that you were there at all.
I'm not very stealthy.
No. If you were half a mile away from a person, the two of you would never know you were even there in the woods. Unless you were firing off gunshots. Or
if I was talking.
Is this mic working?
That's good now, Jeff. Yep.
Yeah,
I like the background. Or is that a background? Is that your man cave, or is that a background?
That is a virtual background, but it's a real picture of my recording studio that isn't in my home.
That's really awesome, cool. Man. How many of us here are musicians? Everyone in this room now are musicians.
That's right.
Hey, we need to start a Bigfoot band to go to all the conferences. I've been saying this for years now.
Pat, you would disagree with every song we wanted to do.
No, no, I'm down. I'm sure that all you guys would pick the right songs. Like, I'd be cool with that. I promise you.
There's no Bigfoot songs, but there's kind of like metal songs with like monster themes in them.
Yeah.
Oh, like Iron Man, like Black Sabbath.
Yeah, I mean,
you just gotta pick songs like that approach the subject from a distance, like Lunatic Fringe by Red Rider.
Well, there you go.
Yeah.
Oh God, yeah.
Everybody says we're crazy. However, we know we're not crazy, right? So
Yeah,
maybe
right.
we're
Yeah,
on the
yeah,
fringe of all that, right?
I'm not crazy. I've been tested.
But look, I mean, if you have an audience that just wants to be entertained, I mean, you can play any song you want. It doesn't have to be like some Bigfoot theme.
Well, that's
You know,
true too.
you could just play fun songs, and people will get off on it, man. I mean, that's entertainment, right? Yeah. I don't know, Jeff.
I'm just trying
welcome.
to something. You guys talk away there for a second.
So, Pat, I wanted to give you the news. I've been working on my 107 license.
Okay.
And my son, who has is majoring in criminology, is minoring in drone pilot.
Okay.
For use in law enforcement, and he just went after saving up his money for about 8 months and bought a Matrice.
A Matrice.
So
really?
I'm really excited to see what all he does with it. So
he has it's a Matrice
30T.
It's a 30T.
He got a law enforcement discount, so instead of paying like 13 something, he paid like $8,000.
Holy shit. You have access to a Matrice 30T. That's amazing.
Well, I don't want to say I do because I'll crash it in 2 minutes at this point.
I see you have access.
He, however, has gotten pretty good at flying it. So.
You have access.
Sure.
So you have a son that can fly a Matrice 30T.
Yeah.
That's the point. Yeah. Not that you would stick it.
I have been playing around though with, I mean, it's not real fancy, but it's not junk either. I've been flying an Autel 2, which is a couple grand, you know.
Yeah.
It's not junk. You actually can get pretty good at it, and if you can learn to fly that, you can probably learn to fly about anything. But you know, you don't run the risk of throwing away $10,000 right out of the gate. So
yeah. No,
but really, when you look at the features that are dialed into these, it's pretty damn hard to crash one. I mean, they're kind of designed to save themselves in a lot of cases. But
yeah, it's gotten better.
Yeah, it's got.
You could definitely crash one.
Oh yeah, if you're intending on it, but I mean, accidentally, you're flying it through something. You get too close to a wall or get too close to a building. It's amazing how when you're going in a straight line, how they will sense stuff and throw in emergency type braking and things like that, rather than letting you just run it right into a tree. You know.
Yeah.
But that would always work. But
it doesn't always work.
No.
I know from personal experience. Yeah, my autonomy failed me. I crashed right into a tree.
I'll crash it.
Yeah, I've crashed a couple of times. I got lucky though. I got lucky with my crashes, but yeah, I mean, if you drain your battery over the middle of the lake, I'm sorry. It's going down, you know. It's
definitely.
Yeah, there's nothing that can save you if you don't pay attention to battery power getting your, drone back.
Don't some of these drones though have something when their battery starts getting low, they automatically come back?
I've heard of that.
Yes, you can.
You can set it to do that.
You can set it to do that. Yes.
If you don't have it set to that, it's going to automatically notify you.
Gonna let you know.
And let you know that you need to start returning now in order to get back on its remaining charge. But it knows that it can be landed short of coming back. So, if you choose not to do it, it's not going to force itself to start coming back. So.
Yeah, I know absolutely nothing about drones. So
here's another thing.
Well, I do.
Let's just. I don't know how many times you'd use this situation, but let's suppose you launch it from an area that you parked your truck, and you fly it 5 4 miles, 5 miles away, okay? And you're looking at an area and you start getting low and you have somebody in that area with batteries, you can land it there. They can swap out the battery and you can put it back up again versus having to return to where you're operating it from. So I know that sounds crazy, but there's a way to avoid the back and forth if you've got boots on the ground in a certain area. But
yeah, which I mean, I'm like, screw that. But worst case scenario, you can land your drone and retrieve it.
Yeah.
I
honestly, even for the research that I would be doing, I don't ever see flying that drone those types of distances. For me, I'm going to be in a boat at night, flying it over islands, flying it around the perimeter of small islands. These are things that you're talking 10-minute flights. You're going to know immediately if there's an 800-pound, 9-foot tall something on that island.
Yep,
I mean, it's not going to hide.
It's not going to hide. Depending on the canopy.
Yeah.
What part of the country are you in, Jeff?
Northern Minnesota.
Oh, okay. Wow.
Yeah, Jeff, actually, let's switch gears. And we've been talking about drones for 30 minutes. Let's go into, because I know that the last time we spoke, I had you on here 3 times. I got a lot of views when you were on here with Doug Highcheck and stuff. What's been going on with you up in your area?
Well, I guess I don't do much for shows anymore, and the research that I'm doing, I'm trying to work with some people outside of our Bigfoot room, so to speak, outside of this community, who are involved in science, with a DNA collection attempt to use vectors, mosquito. We're going to go out and set mosquito traps overnight in very remote areas of Canada and Montana and Washington and Idaho, and take these, and these 2 different labs I'm partnering with are going to be looking at ones that have had feedings on blood hosts and mapping all the vertebrate mammals that they're feeding off of.
Oh, mosquitoes. I never even thought of that.
Yeah. And this is something that I've been working on for a while now. Something that science is doing regularly already. Okay. Science is collecting 1,000 mosquitoes a night in remote areas. They look at those, they find the 200 and whatever of them that have been on a blood host in the last 10 hours or so. They have a drop of blood in them, and they put them in analyzers that basically will take one of those mosquitoes and turn it into a milkshake, and they test it. And they separate the DNA pattern that identifies the mosquito itself, and they look at what's left, and they figure out what vertebrate mammal that mosquito is fed on. And what they're doing here in science right now is finding out virus transfers. Is it possible these mosquitoes are biting a raccoon that has a virus, and then they go bite a white-tailed deer 2 days later, and do they transfer that virus? That's something that science has been studying, doing this for 2 years. So we're not reinventing the wheel here. We're simply saying, if we go collect 2,000 samples from remote areas, and we have 50 samples of black bears and 200 samples of mule deer and 100 samples of moose, and in the end, we still don't have a Bigfoot sample, we're starting to get a problem here. If you get 5,000 samples and don't have one, now we've got a real problem. However, if you collect a sample, you really don't have anything yet until you collect another sample in a different geographical area, and they're the same DNA genetic code, and it's unmapped. You've got something that science can't turn their head on right now.
True.
We can't identify what it is, but we know what it isn't, and science has to pay attention to it now. So that's just something that I'm trying to work on. And quite honestly, if you're just going to work with people in our Bigfoot, area of the room, you can't get anything done with science. You can't. You have to get outside of this room, and you have to let them play the cards the way they fall. I'm not writing a check saying, here's the results I want you to find. I'm saying if we collect 10,000 samples and we don't have a Bigfoot and you want to put a thumbs down and say Bigfoot can't exist, I'm fine with that. I'll have to wrestle with how I deal with that, but I'm not forcing these scientists that I'm partnering with to have to play a hand a certain way. Play it the way it plays.
Yep. Absolutely 100%. That is
so these scientists have been doing this for years anyway to find out what species are in America.
They've been doing it for years, and now, since the C word came out here in 2020, it's gotten big. In different zoos. Here in the Great Plains Zoo in my area, in 1 year in 2022, we had a snow leopard and an African lion both die in the same week that both tested positive for C19.
Really?
So we're showing that these animals can get this and die from it, right? What happens if a white-tailed deer herd gets it? What happens so more money is being put into these universities to go out and do this testing. But here's what they're doing. When they get a DNA sample that shows it's at least part human or human, they throw it away. They don't even look at it.
Yeah, they're not looking.
They're not looking at human transfer of viruses. They're looking at animal transfers of viruses. And quite honestly, there's some discrepancy on should they be allowed to collect human DNA samples through vectors like mosquito. Because, for instance, if I collected Pat's DNA and it said he had AIDS or whatever, and I put that out there, he'd sue the shit out of me, right? I can't do that. So...
How do they get
there's a lot. I'm just saying, there's a lot of people who are saying we can't collect human DNA. We have to throw it away.
Yeah.
My point is, if we start collecting human DNA that we look at and it's not like our human DNA, don't throw it away. You can keep all the deer and the moose and the bear and do whatever your funded study is working on. I just want the DNA samples we collect that you're throwing away anyway.
So let me get this straight. I don't know if I missed this at the start. Do these scientists know what they're doing, what your intentions are?
They know what my intentions are, but they also know that whether or not they give a thumbs up or... Here's the thing, Cornell.
Yeah.
They're excited about the idea that if we collected 5,000 DNA samples, and let's say there's 3 or 7 or 15... samples that are part human, but they aren't like what we recognize as human, they're really excited at that point. However, if they collect 5,000 samples and they don't have a single sample that could be a Bigfoot, but they've got hundreds of bear samples and every other big game vertebrate mammal in these areas, they're getting to the point to where they can put a thumbs down to this, and they've got a scientific ground to stand on to do it.
Yeah.
Yep.
I'm not going to stop.
Probably what's going to happen.
I have to wrestle with what I experienced at 18 years old then and figure out how do I deal with that. But I'm not stopping them from putting a thumbs down to it if they get that many samples and we still don't have anything.
Yeah.
And that's fair.
So they're going to win either way, right? They're going to win either way. They're either going to find something or they're going to be the ones to say, we've proven this is not likely.
Yep. And I'm all about that. It's got to be hot and cold at this point. There can be no more lukewarm. That's the point of what Jeff is saying. Like, even what Jeff's talking about, which is like his thing that he's into. And then I'm over here with the drone thing, and I'm kind of like backing that up in a different way. It can't be lukewarm anymore, guys. It has to be hot or cold. We can't have this in the middle narrative.
I feel like
BS.
If I'm going to go out and spend time droning islands that I feel are high percentage areas of very remote, little human activity, and we aren't finding anything on these areas that they can't escape from, but have a reason to maybe be, I would love to do that. And if I go out and if I go drone 300 islands and don't find one on one, but I find 117 samples of where there's deer on them, 214 samples of where there's black bear on them, 112 samples of where there's moose on them, and I start mapping every big game vertebrate mammal in these areas and still don't have a Sasquatch, I'm heading in the same direction that this vector DNA thing is, to where I want to be able to prove that this thing exists, or my efforts in the end show it's likely they don't. I don't want to leave it in this gray area. I don't want to go out and listen for wood knocks or record howls that don't sound like coyotes. Nothing proves shit when you do that. We don't get anywhere doing that.
Nothing. That's all narrative bullshit. I mean, it just is. I heard a weird coyote sound, therefore it's Bigfoot. Like, get out of here.
That happens a lot. Stuff like that. I've had people email me sound samples that they've taken, and there's been one or two, I don't know what they are. Doesn't mean they're Bigfoot, but a lot of them I've been able to identify as coyotes, owl, red fox, such as that,
Gray fox.
One of my favorites, it sounded like a coyote, but it wasn't a coyote. That Bigfoot just wasn't quite pulling off that imitation. It's like, how do you know something's imitating something?
Because that's what they want it to be. It's Bigfoot on the brain. There's no doubt. It's 100% conclusive. No doubt about it. People go out in the woods with Bigfoot on the brain, and that's what they get. When they hear coyotes, they get Bigfoot.
A lot of people like to live in this fantasy gray zone, though.
Yeah. But, the thing is, Cornell, is it's not by choice. It's an ugly word to use to some people, but it's a realistic word when we talk about ignorance. That doesn't mean you're bad. It's a matter of reference. What have I experienced in my life that I compare what I'm seeing or hearing to? What's my reference? What's my threshold of reference? And I'm telling you right now, as somebody who's spent 9,000 hours looking through a spotting scope in Montana and some of the most remote parts of North America, when I see something that doesn't look right, or I hear something that I don't hear as being familiar, my reference is huge that I'm comparing that to. The problem is a lot of people who say, well, I know what a coyote sounds like. Do you? You know what your typical coyote howl sounds like, but do you know what the full range of sound that they're capable of making?
In the distance,
if you heard one caught in a trap, would you even recognize the frantic sound it's making? You wouldn't.
That stood on a nail.
Or if it's in a fight. Or
the distance.
A mountain lion growling, a mountain lion growling or yelling in the night versus one that's simply whining at another one because it's, coming into that mating season and they're really trying to take a stance on territory. And they start making sounds that you simply wouldn't attribute to a bobcat or a mountain lion. It's not what you think of when you think of what sound does a bobcat make, right? So when I say that threshold of reference people have, it's greatly different for a lot of people. And a lot of people who don't spend a lot of time in remote areas, they might think because they're outside a lot, they have a big reference, and they really don't.
Yeah, that's kind of like
me. They really don't.
No, it's a huge difference. A barred owl, just one barred owl that's 50 feet up in a tree and 100 feet away from you sounds completely different when
not
it's
only
50
that,
feet up in a tree 200 yards away from you.
Yeah, not
Those
only
sounds
that,
are
when I hear one that's
different.
150, 200 yards away, And when I'm in an archery stand and I hear one in a tree right next to me sitting 15 foot tall and it's still dark and it doesn't know I'm sitting there and it sounds off, you want to talk about crapping your pants and almost falling 30 feet to the ground. There's nothing in your head that would say that was a barred owl. There's nothing. Right. You might hear it from 200 yards away and say, I know what that is, right? It's just people's reference, and I'm not trying to talk down to anybody. I'm just saying this is a really big issue. It'd be like me talking to an electrician. I'm not really good at electric stuff, right? And I'm trying to figure out how to wire something, and I say, oh, I know the difference between positive and negative. They're laughing at me the same way I would laugh at somebody if they said, oh, I know what a coyote sounds like. And it's like, oh, where are you from? You know?
And what distance are the coyotes howling off? Like, if they're really far away, it sounds completely different. It sounds like a roar almost.
Freaky.
Yeah. It's a distance issue. I've heard coyotes at all distances.
You've got to look at what's the situation in the group or the pack of coyotes that you're hearing from, okay?
And they're very diverse.
Are they competing against each other over a kill they have, a deer? When one howls and the other one howls, they're going to compete against each other in volume. But when they're howling as a pack, calling out, letting others know what their location is, one will howl and rise up. And as you hear it fall, another one's coming up. And then you'll hear that one. And as it falls, another one's coming up. You'll hear 5 different coyotes maintaining a howl that sounds like one long screaming animal. It's not, you know.
But there are, and I would recommend or advise people, definitely do this. You can go even online and get like at the wildlife pages and listen to these different birds, different animals, the different sounds they make. Yeah, you're not going to get the full diversity. Like Jeff was saying, once caught in a trap, it's going to sound different than whatever, but you can educate yourself on this. Like Cornell, remember the first time you came down here, we got there late at night and that owl right at the edge of the camp just let out this wah. You know, you're like, what the hell was that? You know, it's like,
I've never heard that sound before.
Like Jeff was saying, you got an owl just very close to you, lets out full volume. It's powerful.
It is. They project.
And somebody that's not familiar with wildlife of the area or whatever may hear that. They're on a Bigfoot outing.
No, I've heard. I have personally heard barred owls make whoops. Whoops. Well, of
course.
Whoop.
Absolutely.
It's just that P doesn't really resonate at the end, but it's enough to go, woo.
That might have been just a Bigfoot imitation.
I think that amount of times that avian species are confused with making Bigfoot sounds is huge. Way bigger than people give it credit to.
Oh, yeah.
People typically will think, oh, it's coyotes and wolves and felines that people are mistaking, right? I think avian species, birds that whoop and have different sounds like that, people really aren't that, keen on what those are. Plus, you look at avian movement and migration, it's easy to get bird species in your area that aren't normally there, maybe. You might have a bird that can whoop in your area that isn't there year round. It's there for a week as it's passing through, right? So I just think that avian species, I think, are confused a lot of times with Bigfoot sounds. Just because people are unfamiliar
with Bigfoot on the brain.
Yeah.
Again, you Jeff, we've talked about this before.
We've talked about it.
You plop down into a campsite and you have Bigfoot on the brain. So every single sound, that is weird, it's fun and exciting. It's fun. It's Indiana Jones,
Record the stuff the best of your ability when you're there. Then you get home, you can play it back and get a better idea. Maybe identify it better than when you were there.
I don't even think that's worth doing.
It's the best we can do in some situations.
Like, I really don't. Like, because here's the thing. I don't think that's worth doing.
So what's worth doing?
Well,
I don't think that's worth doing.
Would be worth
because
doing.
The odds of you plopping down within an eighth of a mile of a Bigfoot are zero. I'm sorry. It comes back to that.
But Pat, to overcome the Bigfoot on the brain, you can't overcome it by saying no. Okay. You have to overcome it by showing somebody they're wrong. And the way you would do that is take those recordings. But what we need to do, what would serve this community best, is if Wildlife Acoustics or one of these great auditory analysis software systems would make itself free on a site to where I can go in and upload my whoop or my sound, and it hears it, analyzes it, puts it in a spectrograph, comes back and says, that is a coyote, or that is a whatever. Right? Now I can look at that and say, okay, I see a definitive analysis rather than somebody saying, no, dude, that can't be Bigfoot because the odds of you being close to one are bullshit. That doesn't work to get rid of Bigfoot on the brain for people.
I mean, the math.
It doesn't.
I mean, you can't deny the math.
You can't deny the math, but here's the problem. You have to have a certain dose of realism and common sense and be willing to realistically apply them to overcome it. And most people aren't. Most people aren't.
I mean, I don't have I can't afford the time to go back checking Bigfooters. Like, I don't have that. I don't have that kind of time.
It's the cancer
affordability.
It's the cancer that is
doing
the most damage in this community. It isn't the people who are trying to be out here doing shows for shock value, bullshitting people. You know what? They are who they are, and if you can't identify who they are, that's on you. It's pretty easy for most of us to identify who's doing that, right?
Yeah,
that's not hard.
Course.
What we have a problem with is people who aren't out trying to mislead people. They aren't intentionally doing that, but they're coming out very assumptively. When they hear something, they say, that's this or that's that, rather than saying, I believe that is probably this or this could be. They don't leave themselves any room for error or debate. They have to be on it factually, and they present stuff factually. I listened to a different channel today just out of curiosity. Guy came on there today pitching things after things after things that he's experienced so factually. Not once did he say, I think what I may have been hearing or I think what may have been happening. Not once. There was no room for debate.
He never
over what he was
covered
presenting.
His ass at all.
And that is the cancer that is killing people who are here trying to find the truth.
Agreed. And that's what Bigfoot is. Like that's what's become what the Bigfoot phenomena is false narrative.
Yeah.
Just like you're saying.
Again, though, I don't think they're out there saying, and that's not saying there aren't. I think over 2/3 of the channels in this subject are shock valuing, pimping out headlines for clicks that are just
I'd say 99%.
Probably. Yeah. You know, that are just doing this intentionally. But I think there are a lot of people who want to know the truth, who are out there with Bigfoot on the brain, and they aren't properly applying a scientific method. They're going out there with all leaning in one direction so hardly that they can't even get neutral anymore to analyze something.
Well, yeah. I mean, it's all entertainment value. Like, look, this video, be honest with you, be lucky to get 500 views. Right?
Yeah.
And so that's That's not personal. That's not personal. That's just honesty. But you know why? Because we're not sitting here going, "Hey, Jeff, tell us your Bigfoot story."
But if I came on here and your headline said Jeff Harding's going to come on and share pictures and videos, and I share a bunch of green blob pictures and play, 50 different recordings of Canuck in the middle of the night.
5,000 views.
Oh yeah, we'll go viral.
Yeah, for sure.
Cornell will probably be 50,000 subs by the morning, right?
Yeah,
exactly.
But good idea.
Or I was on a freaking Metro bus in Chicago and Bigfoot got on. I mean,
of course. Yeah, but rather than we're having a real conversation, which is the conversation that needs to be had if you want answers.
I keep talking to Pat. I'm not even going to believe I exist.
Yeah, man, David, you are total. You're a total AI creation, David.
Yeah,
you are here in AI form. Look, David, look. Listen, you have to understand where I'm coming from.
I'm just messing with you, Pat.
I know. But I do have a passion for this because I am on a PR campaign. And, whatever you think you know about Bigfoot, you don't know what they are. Whatever you've seen.
No, absolutely. I'll be the first to say
and
that.
Jeff, too. Like, I'll say this to Jeff. Like, whatever the fuck you encountered that day, Jeff, you don't know what you're dealing with. You might think you do, but you don't know. And I'm not going down the woo road because I don't even know what woo is.
He's got a better idea than most of us, though. We saw it there.
Look, I'm perfectly comfortable saying I don't know what these things are. They look like primates.
As
but I don't know where
somebody
they are.
15 feet away from one when I was 18 years old and then watched it walk back out on the beach and looked at it for over a minute after that, I still don't know what I'm looking at.
Okay, fair enough. One thing though I need to address about that. Did you or do you now think it was 10 feet tall?
Dude, I have shared that in every account I've ever given. For you to come on and say I've never said that kind of blew me away.
No. I don't remember you saying that.
I not only say that, but here's how I break it down. When I look at all the different big game animals that I've seen, I remember seeing a mount that Billy Moles, the biggest grizzly bear guide in Alaska, the famous mountain man in Alaska, that shot one of the record grizzly bears up there on Kodiak Island. This thing was 10.5 foot tall and weighed 1,280 pounds. And the body mass of it stretched out. I've seen that mount. I've seen how big the legs are, the hips, the waist, the chest. I know what 1,200 pounds and 10.5 foot tall looks like in an animal, okay? Not saying it would be the same exact proportions, obviously. But when I remember looking at that thing when it came back out onto the beach, and afterwards when we pulled away in the boat and I'm discussing with my friend, I said, I keep thinking if I would have ran up to that thing and jumped as high as I couldn't have touched the top of its head. I can touch the net on a basketball hoop. I can't touch the rim. I don't think I could have touched the top of its head. And he said, I agree. I couldn't either. I have shared that exact statement right there in every account that I've ever shared of this.
Well, then I apologize because all I ever said was I didn't remember.
Yeah. I wasn't mad at you. I felt bad because Randy was saying, well, look, he said that. And you're like, I don't remember him ever saying that. And I'm thinking,
that's all I ever said.
I've kind of obviously put that out there. Even when one of the first times I ever shared it was here on Cornell Show.
Yeah, I just said I didn't remember you ever saying that. And I never said
hey, Will.
anything.
And I don't, and I've shared reasons why I think that there's probably very few instances in Texas and Florida and Louisiana where you would ever get one that big. And I say that because of...
because of Burtman's Law or whatever.
Well, if you look at the anabolic rate in burn that they have to exist at for 5 months a year at 20 below zero in a couple feet of snow, it's the same reason why a white-tailed deer in Alabama at 7.5 years old and a white-tailed deer up here in the Dakotas or in southern Canada, in southern Manitoba, it's 40% bigger than Alabama, yet the exact same genetic code. Exact. 40% larger. And we have examples of that in animals in northern climates existing at a larger rate than southern climates, simply because of the fat burn and metabolic rate and what they live at throughout that winter. You couldn't be smaller and not carry that and make it. Now, that's why I say in Alabama or in Florida, maybe 8.5 foot tall is what a mature male could max out at, you know. Maybe they couldn't get 10 foot tall. But that's really not any different than a lot of these larger vertebrate mammals we're talking about that exist up north versus up south.
Yeah. I mean, and of course, moose, right? Like, I look at moose. They're huge. Moose are huge. Listen to me. I'm saying to you right now, moose are huge. They're fucking big, man. They're so big.
A female 5-year-old moose is around 1,800 pounds.
Yeah. I mean, that's right
ridiculous.
There is mind-blowing.
1,800 pounds.
And imagine a full-grown male, right?
So when people say, well, there's no way Sasquatch could be 800 or 900 pounds, it's like...
Well, those are ungulates. I mean...
I think a lot of that,
you talk about primate, 10 feet is like max for gravity. You know,
you have to also, like I brought up in this discussion we've had before, Pat, is imagine living in an Aborigine tribe in Africa where everybody in your tribe, nobody's taller than 5 foot tall, right? And all of a sudden one day, Shaquille O'Neal walks in at 7.5 foot tall.
Right.
They don't even believe they're looking at a human at that point. It doesn't look like a human.
But that's
to them.
That's
their
primitive.
Reference is totally blown
thinking.
Away now.
Yeah. What I'm talking about is the laws of physics, whereas human form is pretty much maxed out, even with Sasquatch special, whatever's 10 feet. I mean, that's it.
That's why today when I was listening to that show and I hear this guy saying, you don't realize how fast these things are. They can outrun us humans, no problem. And I'm thinking, have you had a foot race with one? I mean, how are you speaking so factually about this, right?
Oh,
but also, I believe that if one was 9 foot tall and weighed 800 or 900 pounds, that it would have an extremely difficult time catching and killing a white-tailed deer. Now, they're going to have to hunt from positions of, they aren't going to stalk it. It's going to be complete ambush, playing the wind, everything, jumping out and killing it, okay? That's why I think there's a chance they could be hunting from these islands, because these animals swim to these islands, and when they get on shore, where are they going to run to? They can't. You don't have to chase them through a forest. Just step out and kill them. But this idea that Sasquatch is going to run after a deer and kill it, I got news for you, dude. Have you ever tried to run after a deer?
They move
Sasquatch is not going to run after a deer and catch it. No. It's not going to happen.
Can we address what Raptor Crazy says here? I think, Raptor, we're on the same page as you. That's kind of what we're saying. Yeah, we don't have any evidence or tree structures, or we're saying the same thing.
I don't. I think what Raptor's experiencing here is he's not looking at the 90% we agree on, okay? He's trying to find the little bits and pieces that we don't agree on and make huge things out of them. And I don't believe that it exists like he's showing that, okay? I don't claim that I have evidence. And coming into these chats on all these different shows, and anybody like myself who's had an encounter and seen one and saying, show me the evidence. You're demanding evidence from me. Show me the pictures. Like, if I don't have them, it's bullshit. Move on, right? Like I've failed you in some way. Like, I owe you this evidence.
Not you.
I don't, dude.
Not
First of
you.
all, I don't. And second of all,
yeah,
people who have these experiences and
dude.
don't have evidence of them doesn't mean it's bullshit. It does not mean it's bullshit.
Yeah, it's not you, Jeff.
It's not me. I'm using myself as an example.
You've never went.
Pat, I've seen Raptor go into dozens of different channels and demand evidence from people who say they've had an experience.
Well, I think there's some validity to that. I think there's some validity to that, because that, again,
I'll tell you where the validity is, Pat. Today I'm listening to a guy on this channel, on a channel, say they walk out of the tree line up to the window of my house all the time.
Right.
Okay, if they do that all the time, show me the video and pictures. Because if they're doing it all the time, dude, you should be able to produce what Raptor's demanding. That's fair.
That's what he's talking about.
For somebody to say, I had an experience where I saw one, and it's like, if you don't have proof, shut up. You can't take that stance with people, dude.
No, I agree with that.
That's two different things.
I agree. There are two different things. There is this percentage of like, what the fuck is that? Like, I believe this person. Holy shit. What the fuck did you see that day? And then versus the narrative, which is 99% of what's online. And that's what fucking Raptors responding to.
I get where he's frustrated. I get what frustrates him. It's just when we come off and say, I'm going to write everybody off, all these channels are junk, all these channels are whatever, you've got to pay close attention to the people who I try to make it really a point. And anybody who's watched me for a while can honestly, has to be able to say that I don't present stuff factually hardly ever. I'll say, when I'm out there and I'm looking at something, I believe what I'm seeing is this, or I would estimate, or I think this is the most probable explanation as to what you're looking at. I don't come on and say, well, they do this, and if you ever hear that, that's what this means. And that's not me.
Definitely not you.
And that's not a lot of these people. A lot of our, if you listen to yourself and Steve Coles and, a lot of these shows, Brent, they're coming out saying, I believe it could be this, or maybe we're seeing this, or maybe we're hearing this. They don't come out and factually proclaim this is Bigfoot and what he does, and this is what, I think Raptor is really fed up with experiencing that. But he has this kind of, I'm going to take it out on everybody notion. Yeah,
I mean, I get that. But there is a part of what Raptor talks about that is true, which is, he's addressing the narrative. And
which is what I've been doing for a long time. We started having this conversation, Pat, probably about 8 months ago. When I did that show talking about all the guides I network with, and between me and the guides that I work with in the most remote areas of Manitoba, Montana, Idaho, Wyoming, Washington State, guiding elk hunters, guiding bear hunters. We sit there for 8-10 hours a day looking through spotting scopes at stuff a mile away, right? These animals don't know we're there. And I've seen hundreds of black bear. I've seen probably about 40 some grizzly bears. I've seen over 100 mountain lions. Wow. I could name off every vertebrate animal out there. Every one. Timber wolves, hundreds of timber wolves. It's 9,000 hours personally that I and clients have spent together sitting next to each other in the last 20 years looking through spotting scopes at remote areas. One thing I haven't seen, a Bigfoot.
Yeah.
I have a problem with that, right?
Yeah.
The idea that 5 Bigfooters can go out camping somewhere on a Friday night and Monday have 37 wood knocks recorded and 10, 15 rocks thrown at us and something was breathing outside my tent and,
stomping around.
Dude, I can't do that. This doesn't work like that.
Because
they don't exist in those numbers where you can go out on demand
as a Bigfoot
and have those experiences. Because 5 dentists or 5 motorcycle mechanics sleeping in that tent for 3 nights don't experience shit.
Yep.
Nothing.
And that is the ultimate truth about the false narrative that is Bigfoot.
Now, that's not saying Bigfooters can't go out and have an experience. Don't hear me saying something I'm not. I'm just saying this idea that there's hundreds of channels out there that this weekend are going out camping, and Monday they will have stories to tell.
A documentary.
And if they don't, they feel they're missing a threshold if they don't, so they have to. They have to manufacture it. They have to embellish it. They have to draw assumptions of sounds and say, this is what it was, instead of being honest and saying, I'm not sure what it was. I'm not sure what it was isn't a good show. Nobody's going to come and watch that.
Never, ever. Entertainment, baby. We got to get the views. We got to push the narrative. I saw a Bigfoot. I heard wood knocks. It was a Bigfoot, 100%. Let's talk about that. I'll tell my story. We'll get 1,000 more views.
Well, I get where Bigfoot on the brain can exist. It's just is not worthy of seeing the Bigfoot. Well, I don't. Maybe Curious Cryptid isn't aware that at 18 years old I did have an encounter and saw one.
Well,
very close.
CC has his way of wording things, man. Oh yeah.
But I'm trying to be realistic about it. I believe that if all 4 of us here, if Cornell and Dave and me and Pat went out to one of these remote areas that I spend a lot of time with clients, and we sat out there for 4 or 5 days, I get to where we're going to have experiences that we have to fairly, if we're going to apply a scientific method to any discussion of what did I just see, hear, or experience, have to be fair about all the possibilities we could be looking at or hearing, and discounting the least likely and trying to rank the most probable and look at those and analyze it correctly and say, where are we ending up with this, right?
Not Bigfoot.
You can't start out with a portal. You can't start out with, it doesn't work to start in those areas, in those conversations. But by default,
not at all.
Too many people are starting in those areas. And quite honestly, I don't think we could go to one of these remote areas that I spend time in and be within 5 miles of one and not have it be aware that you are there. The first night we're there, we're setting up tents, we're making some noise. If they're within a mile and a half, they're going to hear it. Then we start a campfire and we start cooking. And 2.5, 3 miles, there's detection going on downwind of you. Then you have thermals coming up the hill and thermals going down the hill every day. And something's going to wind you at some point there. I just don't think that you could spend 5 days in an area that remote and be within a few miles of one and not have it be aware that you're there. Now, that doesn't mean they're going to leave. They may become curious enough to watch you from a distance, but the likelihood that they know that you're there and you don't know that they're there is 99 out of 100 times occurring. The idea that we're going to go out there and expect that we're going to have an experience,
no shit,
isn't rational. It's not rational.
Not even close. It's mathematically virtually impossible. It's just not happening. It's all false narrative. It's so easy. Again, mathematically, like, you think you can plop down within an eighth of a mile of a Bigfoot, a few hundred yards, where thousands of people have been over the past year or two?
Well, and anybody who makes a habituation claim, doesn't, even if it's not constant habituation, let's say they say, well, for so long they've been coming into this area. I was experiencing that 2 years ago in an area that I was kayaking a long ways into that was fairly remote. I thought I was having interaction with something that wasn't human, that had the ability to grasp, move, lift, all these things that doesn't explain what another animal could do other than a human or what we claim to be Bigfoot. And I really felt like that's what I was experiencing. And it seemed like it happened for a while. But when I look back on it, the whole object of being in that area was not to bring electronics, devices, things that may deter them from showing up. It may explain why there was activity, if there was activity in that area. But for people who say, oh, when I put marbles out, they rearrange them. Or when I set dice out, they turn them to different numbers. Or, they keep putting X's in the trees next to my house. Dude, a game camera costs $100, okay? And when we aren't getting pictures and video of them, and David, some of this kind of comes back to where this conversation started tonight. What Pat was talking about when he's talking about Oklahoma and Louisiana and places like that, right? This niche idea. There's a lot of areas where a Sasquatch could exist. However, when you talk about constant existence by a number of them in an area that gets hunted, gets game cameraed like no tomorrow, they're all over out there. There are hunters moving through those areas. There are campers and hikers that move through those areas. Even the swamps and the hard-to-access areas, airboats, people setting crawfish traps, hunting crocodile or alligator, all that stuff. There's people moving through these areas, and I'm not saying a lot, but in the 60 years since Patterson-Gimlin, there ought to be a picture of one. I don't care how remote some of those little areas are. This isn't the remoteness of where I had an encounter in northern Manitoba, where there's no humans within 50 miles of the island that I was on. We're talking about an area that year-round?
Heavily populated.
Year-round?
Yeah.
The driving, the amount of dash cams on cars, the amount of game cameras in the field, the amount of hunters wearing, their camera devices filming live every hunt they go on, the mountain bikers that are out there, the kayakers that are out there, they're exploring these remote areas. And to this day, somebody hasn't accidentally gotten PG-worthy footage. There gets to be a point to where either we're talking about way fewer of these existing than what people expect, which does not fit the narrative, because the narrative's we're going camping this weekend and the sons of bitches are going to be there. Okay, that's the narrative. So not saying they can't be in these areas, but they certainly can't exist in the numbers that the narrative wants you to believe that they exist in.
Well, when Dave and I go out camping, we don't have any kind of a narrative. We go out camping, and if something happens. We don't go out looking for Bigfoot.
No, and trust me, I'm not. I've had Dave on
Well,
my
what
show.
could
We've
ever
had
happen?
experience. Me and Dave have had some conversations in depth about.
Yeah, you
this
know
kind
his
of
story.
stuff. I'm not saying that I believe Dave's doing this. I'm just simply saying the point Pat was making about these areas in Louisiana, Texas, Oklahoma, Florida, fill in the blank, anywhere in the southern half of the United States. I get to where there's some rural, hard to access areas, but you're talking about supporting a species of something of that size amongst a population of people that hunt, kayak, hike, mountain bike, fish, ATV, all of that stuff. And in 60 years, we don't have pictures and video of them. Either they aren't there or they're there in very few numbers compared to what you're led to believe.
Well, that's what everybody in this channel probably has the same thoughts on this, you know?
Well, I mean, my point is, how do you just plop down right next to one? Like, that's absurd.
Yeah, well, I don't think you do.
You know? How do you ever just randomly pick a spot or weekend where you just happen to plop 300 yards next to a Bigfoot? How does that ever happen for anybody? I mean, that's like saying you could plop down next to a Pacific Martin, you know? Like,
well,
what the most rare and elusive animal known to mankind on the planet. Like, how do you do that?
I don't want people to think that I'm saying that if the four of us went somewhere in Oklahoma tonight and at 3 a.m. we went out there and started banging on the side of a tree, that we wouldn't get a distant wood knock back. Do we know it's not a human? No. Are there humans in those areas? Absolutely.
It's the Nowak guys.
Okay. But we don't know. That could be a Bigfoot. And I'm not saying it can't be. It could be. You might even feel that because of where we are and the time it is and whatnot, that it's likely that it is. We've accomplished nothing to advance the science. All we have is a cool story to tell. That's it.
Yeah. I think I would tell that story differently. I don't know.
We've got about 10 minutes left. So, who wants to take it from here? Dave, you haven't said much.
Well, what am I supposed to? I've pretty much said it the first. You see, I agree. There can't be. I just don't see that there's that huge of a population of them. I don't think there's hundreds of thousands of them running around.
Of course not.
Yeah,
there are small population pockets probably, and they don't stay in one exact location within that area very long, or you would find tons of evidence. And when people do on occasion cite them, they are purely by accident.
Yeah, non-Bigfooters.
My thoughts. And
so there's 80 million people.
I don't agree that somebody going out with the intention of looking for Bigfoot, I don't believe that there is zero chance that they may. I think it's unlikely that it can happen. Has happened before. You know,
documented where? What evidence?
Well, you just said you believe the Patterson film was not a man in a suit.
There's a reason why they brought a camera.
Yeah, I mean, so the PG film, if I look at that and go, that's not a guy in a suit, that is that 1 in a billion chance. That has happened one time ever.
That we know
of. Anomaly. Oh, we know of. Anomaly. I will grant anomalies. But when it comes to the idea,
but the thing is, Pat, it's not for you or me to grant anything.
no,
if it happens, it happens.
No, that's my opinion.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. But I mean,
yeah. So I grant the idea of an anomaly that Roger Patterson was prepared that day, and it happened, and that it's 1967. It's a different time. It's a different place. Like that
and
area.
There is, Pat, there is the possibility that the Patterson thing isn't real. There is the possibility.
It doesn't look like a dude in a suit.
It doesn't. I agree with you.
Yeah. So
there's a possibility we weren't there.
Yeah.
I think it leans toward it being real.
That's the best visual evidence we have now in 2024. So that says a lot.
I think the greatest argument that it's real is the argument of all the things that can't explain something rather than what do explain something. If we're going to talk about the muscle movement you see, the no seams in the suit, the fluidity of the movement, all this stuff, what we're really saying is not that what you're seeing proves it's real. What we're saying is it can't be fake if because of this, and this. So
I don't know what that thing is. It looks like a freaking undiscovered hominid.
It's fair to say
that's what it looks like.
It's fair to say that I believe two things happened that day. A perfect storm was created in their situation. And even now, when we analyze that, we can't come to agreement on the elements that create that storm, if that makes sense. I believe the fact that they were on horseback does help produce why they had that experience. Their human scent was covered by sweaty horses, okay? But when we look at wind movement or what time of day it was and the thermals that could have been moving from low to high in those areas or high to low in those areas, there's so many things that could have contributed to that perfect storm of them getting there without being detected further back than what they were detected.
Yeah.
I don't think scientists even to this day can agree on what created that perfect storm. But it was so
long ago. That's the problem. It was 1967, man.
Jeff, what you were saying about the horse may be a good point there. I looked into a sighting of a man on horseback seeing one of these things a little over 20 years ago. I was riding a horse on a trail down in the Comanche Mountains, way off the beaten path, and one of these things walked out in the trail. He said about 50 yards in front of him.
I'll give you some examples, David.
He's on horseback. He was on the path.
When I'm elk hunting, if I'm on foot and I take a bow and I start walking up to 5 or 10 elk standing on a tree line next to an open field, and I'm moving through those trees, when I'm 300 to 400 yards away, those elk start figuring it out, usually, okay? I can ride a sweaty horse to within 50 yards of elk, and they don't pay any attention.
Interesting.
Pat, I said off the beaten path, okay?
Yeah, I mean, if you're on horseback, you're definitely on a path, though.
Not necessarily.
Horses are big animals. I mean,
yeah, but you can take a horse through the thick woods and stuff. You ride horses?
Okay. I'll take your word on that.
Yeah, you'll have to, because I've been on them. I've been through the thick woods.
Okay. I mean, fair enough.
Here's an interesting thought, too.
I don't want to speak out of turn.
Here's an interesting thought, too, and I kind of think of this when I read what Curious just wrote. I don't start any application of a scientific method with anything of the supernatural. I have to assume I'm looking at something flesh and blood until my data shows me something different. And if it does, I'll follow the data wherever it leads me, okay? I'll have the discussion even on what you think that supernatural connection could be. It's just not where I start at.
Yeah.
But I will say this. If the narrative was correct and they do exist in numbers vast enough, let's say, for people to go out and have the number of experiences that are being reported, there would have to be a supernatural aspect to it.
Absolutely. 100%.
They can't be there 24 hours a day, 365 days a year in those areas to support that many encounters. They can't be.
Just to Bigfooters.
They can't be.
And not to the other rest of the population, just to Bigfooters, which means that Bigfooters are conjuring them up like wizards. Stop doing that. Stop. Stop banging on trees. Stop making whoops. Quit casting spells that conjure these planet Hairtron things up. You know, that's not cool, man. Like, just don't do it. Don't invite them to our planet, you know?
So Raptor signs off with, I love you guys, but show proof of stories. Again,
you can't do that.
Pat, that's not, you can't validate what he's doing here. You can't do that.
Well, I'm not. Hey,
this
I'm not
isn't
here
reasonable
to
to
Raptor,
demand
dude.
that.
No. I'm not validating shit.
I know you're not.
I have my own opinions.
He's arguing with the wrong people.
Yeah, I have my own opinions. All I've ever do is say Raptor can say what he says, and that, you know, he shouldn't be banned for his opinion. That's it.
I don't even know who he is.
He's a guy with an opinion.
He's been around in the chats in a lot of these.
He never says fuck you. He never says go away. Like, you're lying. Like, he's not direct like that. He
hasn't been in your experience. There is some times where I've had to ban him.
Maybe
I've had guests on that he comes on. And I'm telling you what, Pat, I've had guests on that when I go back and look at the 100+ guests I've had over the years, half of them I would put in a category that I can't endorse what they're claiming. Okay.
Well, me too.
When I look back, I just don't stand there. However, I'm going to approach them with respect. Okay. And I'm going to be respectful.
I get that.
But when I've got somebody in chat saying, this guy's full of shit, he's a bunch of bullshit. You know, that's not how you articulately disagree with somebody. And I'm not going to subject other people who are here to watch a show to that.
Dude, if it comes through that way, I agree. I get that.
You do that, and then he goes on 10 other shows and says, well, Jeff banned me because I disagreed. No, I banned you because you were calling the guest an asshole, dude. You can't do that. Right?
I get it. Like, I'm not here to fucking defend Raptor, man. Like, I'm not. You know. So.
But yeah, I think you guys are right, and Brent's right. His gripe just doesn't really apply to this group of people.
What do you got to add, man?
Huh?
What you got?
I don't know. I've got a 10-year-old sleeping in the next room, so I'm going to have to wrap it up. Just
plus, you're 54 now. You know, it's getting late.
Yeah,
it's hard. I don't have it on Facebook.
I'm a year older than you, so I can't
really
give you much crap there.
Yeah, it goes in quick. I'll tell you.
Pull up Will Star's comment there.
Yeah, Will Star's always got some good stuff. Will Star's got a great channel for anybody who wants to check it out. He puts the work in. That's a good point. And that's with you, Jeff. Like, you didn't have a camera on you. And
well, in 1987, we didn't have a camera that would film it. But
exactly.
I had my interesting situation was I stood in front of it for about 4 seconds before I'm knocked off my feet, and I'm still visually in contact with it for another 6 or 7 seconds as I slide back. But as I'm freaking out and getting the boat and we back out of there, I watch it walk out onto a beach, and I watch it for over a minute at that point. So this isn't 400 yards away. I saw one walk across the road in front of me, right? Yeah. But I think you're right. A lot of these encounters happen within. Nobody expects to have an encounter who legitimately has one that maybe could be recorded.
Yeah.
If you're a hiker, a mountain biker, whatever,
Oh my
You're
God.
out there with bear spray so you can defend against a bear or a mountain lion. You're out there with eyes sewed onto the back of your backpack so you don't get attacked by a mountain lion. There's a lot of precautions we take out there, and yet who's out there with cameras saying, I'm ready to film Bigfoot if he shows up?
Nobody.
People aren't doing that.
And that's what I only trust the encounter stories from people who were not looking for Bigfoot.
I remember bringing up a scenario, and this is like when I first started my channel a couple years ago. I said, if let's say the four of us were walking in an area we aren't used to. Let's say we're all in downtown Memphis, Tennessee, okay? And I tell you guys, keep your phones around, because at some point I'm going to say, film this, and we've all got 15 seconds to film it. So we might be standing at an intersection, and I say, that light over there is green right now. It's going to turn red. I need everybody to film it as it turns red. Everybody grabs their phone and gets it turned on, gets ready. That thing's red. I mean, even when we're expecting it, how trained are you to, on a couple seconds notice, be ready at the draw like that, right? It's really, really difficult. What we're expecting of people, now you put them in a high PTSD situation to where they're trying to operate, their dexterity and everything's affected because their
hands
brain's in chaotic mode, trying to figure out what's going on, and they're supposed to film something. It's a long shot to begin with, unless you get lucky enough to have a minute-long encounter or something like that. But for most average encounters, they don't last that long. It's these people making claims. I've got them in my backyard. They walk up to my window every night. They leave handprints on my car once a week. I have them stealing chickens out of my chicken coop the last 3 nights in a row. Dude, you tell me stuff like that and you don't have evidence by now? Just shut up.
Yeah.
Because it's not true.
Tons of evidence.
If you had what you believed was Bigfoot stealing chickens out of your coop 3 nights in a row and you don't have a camera out there, stop getting online. Stop getting on YouTube and getting in these groups and trying to tell people stuff. Because it's just bullshit.
Yeah. Shotgun to the face time. That's what I say. Stop fucking with my chickens.
Well, plus if you disagree with them, you're stupid and closed-minded, and then to start insulting you.
My cloaking container.
Yeah.
That's a big tell.
Which, again, circles, dog chasing its tail.
I've got a mint green Yeti, and the camera thinks it's the green screen.
I had a great Yeti and I left it on the job.
So you can see the speaker, that yellow speaker showing up on the glass now?
Yeah.
Curious says it's cloaking.
You've unraveled the cloaking.
Yeah.
Okay, guys. So I'm going to wrap it up there. And any closing words before it's over an hour and a half now. I'm going to have to sign off.
It was a fun discussion. I love sitting down and having a discussion with people that can, even if we disagree, can articulately at least help me understand why you're saying the things you're saying.
Oh, yeah.
I don't have to agree with them, but tell me how you got there. Okay?
Amen.
Well, your doggy's up on your back there. That's cute.
Yeah, Petey. That's Petey. It's dog man.
I've got 2 guinea pigs behind me. They're so cute.
Real dog man there. Dog on man.
Yep. He's a dog man. Hey, I'm Petey.
All right, guys. Well, thank you very much for coming on, and I'll see you guys soon, and I'll have this up tomorrow, and I'll have a nice graphic with all of your channels linked and stuff like that.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
You have a good rest of your birthday this weekend.
Yeah. Happy birthday, Cornell.
15 minutes left of it.
Yeah.
Let's
let it go all weekend, man. I say tomorrow. Let's all vote. Should tomorrow be extension of Cornell's birthday. I agree.
Yeah, let's do it.
I want to forget about it. So,
let's do it, man.
All right,
No,
guys.
it's when you turn 55 that you stop counting, Cornell.
Yeah,
okay.
Man.
Yeah, that's next year.
I'll be 55 too next year. Yeah.
I stopped counting at 40.
Yeah, I kind of did too.
What makes me mad is when you start getting AARP mail and stuff, and it's like,
yeah,
dude, isn't the retirement age like 60 something? Why am I getting it in my mid 50s here?
No, I'll start getting it at 50. I'm like, geez.
Yeah, that's fucking bullshit.
And now with AI, just the fact that we said it, everybody's going to have their Facebook feed filled up with AARP ads now.
Yep. All right, guys. Good night.
Good night.
See you all later.
Good. Yeah. Good night, man.